Hi guys and welcome to Fandom Newbie. My name is Shruti and today I'm going to be talking about the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. You can never have enough books to read, I think. Without further ado, let's just get started. Book number 1 is The Maid by Neeta Prose, and this is basically a mystery novel and it follows our protagonist who works as a maid in a hotel, and one day she stumbles upon a dead body of a murder victim. This person, like the protagonist, she's supposed to be a bit like awkward and she doesn't have a lot of she doesn't have the best social skills, so she becomes the prime suspect for this murder, and so she has to basically quickly solve the crime of this murder to prove her innocence. And I also hope that it's a really immersive and engaging whodunit kind of mystery, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Book number 2, Gallant by V.E. Schwab. Now, I absolutely adore V.E. Schwab as an author. I just think she is a magnificent storyteller and I love the characters that she creates and also the worlds that she builds. They're just so magical and immersive and amazing. Now, I read the summary, like the blurb for Gallant, and I honestly don't know exactly what this is about. It seems like, again, it's set in a kind of like fantasy world where there are parallel universes, and there's the protagonist whose name is Oliver, I think, and she finds herself in a house or a home that used to belong to her mother. I'm not really sure what's going on, but it seems like there's going to be magic, there's going to be parallel universes, and it's just going to be an extremely thrilling and magical ride. So I am very excited to read this one. Book number 3, All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. Now, Sabaa Tahir is the author of one of my all-time favorite book series, An Ember in the Ashes. I've gushed about this series way too many times on this channel. So when I read that she was going to write a contemporary or like literary fiction, I just wanted to get my hands on it immediately. I'm really excited to read this book. It follows, I think, 2 generations of immigrants who have moved to the US, and it's supposed to be a story of love and loss and like heartbreak and just, I guess, the immigrant life in the US, and I cannot wait to read this book. I think it's going to be amazing. Book number 4, Kai by Vaishnavi Patel. Now, Smriti from Santreats actually told me about this book and I immediately added it to my TBR because it just sounds amazing. I'm just really interested in reading these different retellings of the Ramayana from like the different characters' point of view, because it's just so interesting, the amount of powerful female characters that are there in the Ramayana, but how their stories are just like not told in a sense. And we have a lot of like the Ramayana from Sita's point of view, and I'm so interested to read what Kai has to add to the table, because I feel like she's kind of like the villain of the Ramayana in the sense, and she's always portrayed as a very scornful, jealous kind of queen. So I'm really interested to see what her point of view was or what she was thinking and how Vaishnavi Patel will actually bring her story to life. It's just very interesting because I think Kaikeyi is a super duper interesting character, and yep, I cannot wait to read this one as well. Book number 5, Kundo Wakes Up by Saad Hussain. Now, this is a follow-up to The Gurkha and the Lord of Tuesday by Saad Hussain, which is one of the most entertaining science fiction fantasy books that I read last year. This entire world that Saad Hussain has created is basically a science fiction world where these robots are controlling humanity in a sense. At least they're controlling Kathmandu. And then you have these genies that also exist alongside these robots, and they are, I guess, like kind of, it's like the battle of like fantasy versus science fiction in a way, because the genies are magical and they believe in magic and they have their own sort of culture, and the robots are kind of like dictators in a way. It's really strange. It's a very strange world, but it's so funny. This one was added to my TBR real quick. Book number 6 is Neeri Swaran by V.J. James. Now, this is actually quite an old Malayalam novel, but it's being translated into English and being released this year. It follows 3 atheists who try to pull off a prank to prove to everyone in the village that God is actually a superstition and that God doesn't actually exist. But their prank goes wrong because the things that they do in the prank actually lead to certain supernatural events or something like that, and it actually adds to the faith of the people in the village even more, such that the atheists start kind of questioning their beliefs. And what I've read about this book is that it's a really good exploration of what religion means, what spirituality means, and also, I guess, its place in society, which I think is a really interesting topic. And his writing is supposed to be quite satirical and like sarcastic, and I feel that that kind of writing style for this topic is something that's very interesting, and if done right, it can be really entertaining to read as well. So I'm quite intrigued by this book, and yep, I can't wait to read this one as well. Book number 7 is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I've recently become an Emily Henry fan because I read People You Meet on Vacation, and I absolutely fell in love. People You Meet on Vacation is a friends to lover, extremely cute rom-com book, and this one is supposed to be an enemies to lover rom-com book, which I think is going to be so much fun because it's also about, like, the two main characters are related to the book industry. So I think one is a writer and one works in a publishing house or something like that, and they are each other's like professional rivals, and I guess they meet when they are on holiday in like some sort of retreat, and I'm guessing they fall in love, which I just feel like it has all the right elements to make the perfect romantic comedy kind of book, and I love those kinds of books. So yep, very excited for this one. Book number 8, The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. This is another mystery novel, and it basically follows the protagonist Jess, who moves to Paris to live with her brother because she's broke and I think she just needs like a change of scenery or something like that. So she moves to Paris, but when she goes to the apartment that her brother lives in, she finds that her brother is missing, and so she has to solve the mystery and like track down where her brother is. And the suspects for like what could have happened to her brother or who could have done something to her brother are the other people who live in that apartment building in Paris. Now, firstly, I like any book which is set in like a major European city because I just feel like it adds to so much of the atmosphere of the book, and Paris is just such an amazing city to have a plot in, I feel. I'm intrigued by this one and I can't wait to check it out. Book number 9 is Cecily by Annie Garvey. Now, this book is based on the War of the Roses, or the Wars of the Roses, which happened in England in like, I don't know, the 1600s or 1700s or something like that. But the reason why I remember this particular war is because I saw in an interview that George R.R. Martin was actually inspired by this war a lot, and he used this as inspiration to write a lot of the things that happened in Game of Thrones. So that's why, like, as soon as I saw that this book was based on War of the Roses, I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting. The second thing is that this is supposed to be like about this woman who had a huge role to play in the War of the Roses, but her story is kind of like forgotten and not a lot of people know about her contribution. So again, I was like, that sounds totally up my alley. I love a good like women's story, like, or like a feminist story. That just sounds really interesting to me. So like a combination of both of them, I feel will just be awesome. Book number 10 is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. Now, this book is supposed to be like, I don't know if it's exactly post-apocalyptic, but it's supposed to be about a plague that has infected the entire world or something like that. Station 11, which is also one of my favorite books, talks about like this plague that has killed off almost like half the world or something. But that book talks about like human resilience and what it means to be human and just like the human spirit. And what I've read about this book is that it also covers those kind of topics, which is just about humanity and how humans kind of persevere and just their resilience and spirit. I'm not exactly sure, but it just seems really, really interesting. So yes, cannot wait for this one as well. Book 11 is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Now this book is actually supposed to be a combination of Mexican Gothic and Rebecca. Mexican Gothic is actually coming up later in this list, so it's another book that I really want to read. But Rebecca is an amazing, amazing classic which has this like creepy vibe to it, and this book is supposed to also have that kind of vibe. So it has like a supernatural ghost kind of element about this woman who has like recently moved into a house which also has like creepy staff working in it, and also I guess ghosts and other supernatural elements. Mexico actually has a lot of like these mythological elements that have to do with ghosts and things like that. So I just feel culturally it might be a very, very interesting book to read. Book number 12 is Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. Now Emily St. John Mandel is the writer of Station 11. Oh my god, I just blanked for a minute. She's the author of Station 11, which I said is one of my favorite books. And this book is also supposed to be a little bit pandemic-y. Like it's supposed to have something to do with like an illness again, but it also has elements of time travel, and it has elements of science fiction in the sense that there are colonies on the moon. So again, it spans centuries. So you have like a character based in the 1800s. You have someone who is based in like current times, I guess, in a way. And then you have like also someone who is living on the moon or something like that, and how all of these characters are kind of connected and there's time travel involved. It sounds very confusing, and I was confused after I read the blurb, but I know that Emily St. John Mandel has an amazing writing style, and especially when she just talks about humans and humanity, she can write beautiful and powerful stories. So yes, looking forward to this one. Book number 13 is The School for Good Mothers by Jessamine Chan. This book reminded me of The Handmaid's Tale, and that's why I really want to read this. So basically, the society in which the characters of this book live in are those that judge mothers extremely harshly. So like one single mistake can land you in this government institution that keeps an eye on whether you're a good mother or not, or like the amount of devotion that you have towards your children is kind of tested. And our main character is a mother who has, I think, a crumbling marriage. She is someone who cannot live up to the expectations of her Chinese parents, and her daughter is just like the only light in her life. Until like one day she has a bad day and she is taken away to this institution where she has to prove her love for her child, otherwise she could lose her child forever. I feel like there will be a lot of good discussion, and it'll talk about like the unreasonably high standards that society sets for women and mothers, and I hope that it does this in a really, really nice way, and again with a lot of nuance. Book number 14 is Love Marriage by Monica Ali. This book basically follows an Indian woman who falls in love with a British man, and the complications that arise when the both of them decide to get married, and like both families meet, and everything that happens because of that. I absolutely love such cross-cultural stories because I feel like, especially when there is like an Indian setting and then a Western setting of sorts, it's just super relatable and fun, and also just like it brings up so much about our society and the things that happen during a wedding. Some of them which might be ludicrous, some of them which other cultures won't be able to understand, and it's just a fun read, I feel. So yeah, looking forward to this one also. Book number 15 is Night of the Raven, Dawn of the Dove by Rati Mehrotra. This one actually I got to know about from Meera, from the Meera Nair YouTube channel, and it just seems super interesting because this is a medieval India inspired fantasy story. And that's honestly all I needed to know about this book for me to add this to my TBR, because I still haven't read Hunted by the Sky, which has been on my TBR for I don't know how long, but I really want to read a good medieval India inspired fantasy book. So yeah, cannot wait to get to this one. Book 16 is Indian Summer by Alex von Tunzelman. Jyotsna from Jyotsna's Bookscapades spoke about this during our partition collab that we did last year, and she has spoken so much about this book and raved about this book so much that I immediately added it to my TBR. Also, my husband has read this book and absolutely loves it. He also recommended it to another friend of ours and he absolutely loves it. So I just really need to read this book ASAP. This book is about the summer that led to the British leaving India. So it talks about that entire process, and it's mainly focused on Mountbatten and his wife and all of the drama that happened during that summer in 1947. Book 17 is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. Again, another book that has been in my TBR for way too long. This book actually, a lot of people have told me that if you like Six of Crows, this is like a better version of Six of Crows, because it is a heist novel where again a bunch of misfits come together to pull off this heist that is supposed to be impossible. And this comes with a recommendation from George R.R. Martin, who just says that it is one of the best fantasies that he has read. So yeah, really need to get to this one as well. Book 18 is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. Her name is a little bit of a tongue twister. But okay, honestly, the only reason this book is on my TBR is I just want to know what the hype is about. Seriously, I want to know why it makes everyone cry. I want to know if I cry or not when I read this book, because I really don't know what this book is about, and I don't want to know what this book is about. I want to go into this book completely blind, without knowing anything about it, and I want to see if I cry or not. Book number 19 is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I love gothic vibey things. I love gothic literature, I love gothic movies. I just find it creepy and sexy and just really interesting. So I'm very intrigued by this book. I'm excited about this one because it was also a buzz book last year. So many people were talking about it, so definitely intrigued. Book 20 is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. I've spoken about this book in one of my TBRs last year as well, but this book is marketed as a combination of Mulan and the Song of Achilles, and that just sounds absolutely amazing. I love Mulan, I love the Song of Achilles, and you combine the two and it just sounds spectacular. Book 21 is Lore by Alexandra Bracken. This was also one of those buzz books from last year that I never got around to reading, and it sounds really interesting. The premise of this book is that every year or something, 9 gods who have committed some kind of crime in the past have to come down to the earth as mortals, and then their rivals can kind of come and try to kill those gods and steal their immortality and their powers. So the main character Lore, her family is actually murdered during this hunt, but she survives and I think goes back to the immortal world. And now she's kind of given this chance to, I guess, take revenge on the man who killed her family. And she teams together with another character, and I think Athena, the goddess Athena, and they come together to take revenge on this man who has now become a god who killed Lore's family or something like that. And it sounds very interesting. I know, again, this book got a lot of mixed reviews. A lot of people were underwhelmed by this book, but it just sounds really interesting. And I love mythological fiction. I love Greek mythology. So yeah, I want to check this one out. And the last book, book 22, is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. This is the 3rd book in the Poppy War series, and honestly, it's been way too long that I have waited to finish this series. Like, I really need to read this book fast. The Poppy War series is a very gritty and dark fantasy series about this girl who discovers that she has these magical powers that can help rid her country from a terrible war. But for her to use those powers, she has to basically lose a part of herself, and so she's conflicted on whether to use those powers and end the war, or like stay herself, like stay as the person she is, but her country will basically lose the war. So that's what like the first book is about, and the rest of the series is basically the consequences of the decision that the main character takes in the Poppy War. So I'm really excited to know what happens next. I have to read this book soon because it's been way too long. So yeah, those are the 22 books that I want to read in 2022. Of course, I'm going to read much more than this, but these are like at the top of my list. Like, I should get to these, or at least I hope I get to these in 2022. We'll see how well I do at the end of the year. But yeah, if you like this video, give it a big fat thumbs up. Leave a comment down below letting me know which is that one book that you have to read this year. Like that one book which is at the top of your TBR list. Let me know down in the comments. And of course, do subscribe to my channel for more book related videos. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.